No worries. Okay, so yeah, welcome to today's iManage Tracker webinar. I'm Brett McDonald. With me today, Jeff Anderson. He's hopefully you all know him. He's the OAA Solutions Director, and Luke Creswick, Head of Pre-Sales at iManage. Actually, firstly, I think I was going to hand over to Luke to say a few words.
Yeah, thanks to Brett and Jeff and the OIA team. Look, I think the OIA team has gathered us all here today to talk about what I think is a really exciting newish product to the iManage Cloud, of course, iManage Tracker. I say it's newish. It's been around for the last year or so it's early in its evolution. There's a lot of things that we'll be doing to that product in iManage Cloud and enhancing it into the future. But it's actually at a really interesting point at the moment where we've got many firms. I think there's something in the order of 50 of our customers that are using it in anger around the world now. So it's getting a lot of attention. It's a fantastic capability that really brings task and checklist tracking into your Work 10 user experience that I'm sure you all know and love today. And the OIA team are doing some really interesting things with trying to align it to some really compelling use cases in the various verticals that OIA have customers in. So anyway, delighted to be here. Thanks for the invite, and I'm sure it'll be a great session.
Cheers, Luke.
Great, thanks, Luke. Just a little bit of housekeeping to start with. There'll be a Q&A tab on your MS Teams. If you'd like to ask a question whilst we're talking or whilst the demonstration is happening, please just ask it in the Q&A. Alternatively, you can just raise your hand if you'd like to speak at some stage. There'll be a Q&A session at the end, and we'll enable your mic so that you'll then be able to talk and ask the question, if you like, at the end. Yeah, so just on the agenda, firstly, we'll just cover a few slides about OAA and iManage. Then we'll jump into a bit of a solution overview, talking through what iManage Tracker actually is. Jeff Anderson will then run you through a demonstration of iManage Tracker. And then, as discussed just then, we'll have a little Q&A at the end for any questions that come up. Okay, so firstly, a little bit about OAA. Most of you have probably been our customers for some time now. We've been around since 1991, and actually we're the first partner to bring iManage into Asia Pacific back in 1996. We've been an iManage, a Microsoft partner now for over 15 years also. Some key awards we've won over the years: 9 times Partner of the Year and 4 times Cloud Excellence Partner. iManage, relied on by more than 1 million professionals around the world, and you probably, hopefully, know some of these stats around law firms. 80% of the global 100 law firms use iManage, and 2,500 law firms globally use iManage. So still, by far, the leader in document management system for law firms. A couple of quick solution overview points. I guess, you'll be obviously seeing Tracker for the first time today. I like to describe it as a little bit like Asana or Monday, if you're using those. Effectively, it's a checklist management tool or task management tool. The key difference, it's built around your client and Matter, and it's all seamlessly integrated with iManage Work 10. As Luke mentioned, it is quite a few firms are using it in anger at the moment. A couple of quotes here from a couple of law firms who are using it. Spencer Nolkeby law firm, they felt it's been essential to their move to the iManage Cloud. And Travis Smith, they feel that it's been a no-brainer for them to add on to their iManage stack. And they have quite a few practice groups that are using it at the moment. Just some key points around iManage Tracker. As I mentioned, one of the big things about it is that it's all Matter-centric still, like iManage. The trackers themselves are accessible in iManage and available within the Matter, if you like, to access that checklist. You can have multiple checklists or trackers per Matter as well. It's fully integrated with iManage Work 10. It's a very easy add-on to your iManage cloud. Effectively no setup. There might be a bit of work in terms of getting your trackers ready, but setting up the actual iManage tracker to integrate with iManage is very easy. Some other use cases we're seeing, kind of similar to Asana and Monday, it can be just replace emails. You can manage your general day-to-day tasks and the like in Tracker. We're also seeing a lot of interest, though, in client intake and conflict management and other areas within law firms, and Jeff Anderson will have some demonstrations on those. And possibly most importantly, it's safe, governed, and secure. iManage, as you know, the most secure document management system in legal, if not in the world generally. And iManage Tracker also obeys all those security levels that you have within the iManage cloud. Okay, Jeff, that's it from me. I'll hand over to you now to start the presentation, the demonstration.
Thanks very much, mate. I'll just switch my sharing over. And if I can just do a bit of a sense check, make sure my audio is okay and you can currently see that tracker demonstration slide.
Yeah, that's all good.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Brett. That was a great intro. And Luke and everyone, thanks very much for your time today. This is just a bit of an introduction to iManage Tracker. So the 5 main areas that I hope we can take away from the demonstration I'm about to show you. First of all, what is a tracker? So we'll have a look at how do you access the tracker solution from inside iManage Work. What are the touch points? How do we do various different tasks to find out what's going on with our checklists? We'll go through how do we create new trackers or new checklists, either from an existing legacy checklist that you might have sitting in a spreadsheet or something like that, or from a template that we have sitting in your iManage Work system. We'll have a look at the ways that you can change your tracker or your checklist to make it more suitable for whatever your business use is or your business use case for a particular tracker, which means we can add and remove different metadata fields and options and dates and assignees and stuff like that to make it more relevant to the type of work that you're doing. We'll have a look at how we can view the tasks that we've got, whether they're our own tasks or tasks for other people within a team that we might be working in, or people that might be working in my team itself. And lastly, we'll have a look a little bit how Brett mentioned sort of replacing emails as far as a task management tool is concerned. But a lot of the time we get emails coming into our inbox, which perhaps have something that we need to do or an obligation that we need to complete. And rather than letting that sit and potentially get lost in my inbox, I can actually convert that into an actionable item in iManage Tracker right from within the Outlook interface. So we'll have a look at that as well today. As Brett mentioned, while we've got everyone's cameras and mics switched off for the moment, if you feel free to paste any questions in the Q&A, and Brett and Jenny and Luke will be able to answer during the course of it. At the end, we'll read out any of those questions, and also at the end of the demonstration, we'll give the opportunity to raise your hand, and we'll be able to allow your mic to unmute and ask a question if you need to. So we'll see what we get to when we get to the end of the demonstration section. So moving on to that. Here's iManage Work Web. I'm hoping that most of our customers are already using iManage Work 10 and using this web interface and have transitioned from the file side and desk side solutions onto this in recent times. I think we've only got a handful of customers still using file side. So this should be a very familiar interface to you. We've got our standard iManage Work Web interface, our recent documents list and stuff like that. You might notice that we've got a new tab here on the left called Tasks, and we'll go into that a little bit later where I'll show you how you can view the tasks that you've got in your list and some of your colleagues and stuff as well. But if I look at how do we navigate to a tracker and how is it actually so well integrated with your matters in iManage Work. So again, this tree view should be very familiar to our to all of our users, our customers. I'll pop down into that L. Johnson lawsuit matter workspace. Should be very, very familiar. Share folders, folders for documents and emails and stuff like that. But what's new with iManage Tracker is that we now have in our context menu, we can open up the iManage tracker page for this particular matter workspace. If a tracker doesn't exist for this matter, at that point, it will actually create a new tracker for this particular matter workspace, and you can start adding new tasks to that blank tracker from there. So there's not a lot of sort of administrative overhead here when it comes to using iManage Tracker. All of the users and matters and other metadata that comes from iManage Work will automatically flow through, and all the security from your iManage Work matter workspaces will flow through to the tracker as well. So the only thing that the user needs to do is either create tasks for themselves or create tasks based on existing lists or based on existing templates from the system, and we'll go through that in a second as well. So this matter workspace, this is the tracker page for that matter workspace. I've got 4 sort of example trackers here that we've set up just to give you a bit of a flavour of what you can do with a solution like this. And I've chosen these particular checklists because they should be very familiar and sort of tangible things that law firms do on a regular basis. So the first one I've got here is a conflicts check. So you'll see I've got various tasks that need to be stepped through with different people that are assigned to complete those various tasks as part of a conflicts check. Each of those tasks has got custom metadata, like does that have a conflict, yes, no, or not applicable. It's got an assignee for that particular task with a due date. We can have files, either documents, emails, or folders, which are saved in iManage Work, can be linked to individual tasks as well. And we've got our default status metadata field here, which can be changed as well. And we've added a notes field to this. So in this example, we've got a few sort of custom fields. We've got some documents which have been linked directly from iManage Work. To do with this particular conflicts checklist, we understand that there's some customers that need a much larger, sort of more complicated and automatically driven conflicts checking process. And of course, if you need something like that, iManage has got solutions like the iManage conflicts tool, or of course there's bespoke workflow solutions out there. If you are currently managing your conflicts checks from a spreadsheet or a Word document, this is where something like Tracker can very easily replace that and keep all of those tasks within the matter itself in your document management system, being iManage Work. It also means that it's very dynamic and all of the tasks are kept up to date and live for all of the people involved in your engagement. And it also means that everyone that's involved in your engagement or your matter have got access to the tasks for this particular project or process. The same can be said for some of these other examples we've put together. So I've got a due diligence checklist here. So again, just steps through things like finding copies of agreements, and the users are able to link the agreements that they may have found in iManage or upload them into iManage Work and link them to tasks. You'll notice that this due diligence tracker has less metadata fields. So we don't need some of those additional fields for this particular tracker, so it's a bit more simple. The next one I've got here is an intellectual property due diligence process. Again, very basic, but something that should be tangible by most of our legal customers. And here I've just got 4 very simple tasks, again with the out-of-the-box assignee due date, some linked files from iManage Work, and of course the statuses and that sort of thing as well. And the last one I've got here, again, should be very familiar to people working in legal, is a matter closure process. So again, super simple. I've just got 5 steps that need to be handled by different people. They have different due dates, and of course they can have files linked. And I've added some additional metadata fields here, like the external party name, that can be filled out by the people who are responsible for this particular task. So just to recap on what we can do, I'm going to close that tracker page. From inside my L. Johnson lawsuit matter workspace, I just use the context menu to pop out the iManage tracker page, which shows us all of the trackers that are underneath this particular matter. And we can have as many trackers as we want. because it's important to think that, any particular matter that you've got going on in your firm, you could have multiple projects or multiple jobs or processes that need to be handled and managed. So that's a feature that's been added to have multiple trackers per matter workspace. So the next thing I want to show you is how do we create new trackers. So there's two main processes that we generally recommend to our customers to create new matters. And this is where iManage Tracker really comes into its own, because you can move from your legacy task management solutions, whether they're an online cloud solution, or even better, you're using Word documents or spreadsheets currently with a very manual process to manage your checklists. And you can allow your end users to organically start transitioning those legacy checklist processes into iManage trackers very, very simply and easily with a very limited amount of training. The other thing we can do is we can create a new tracker based on a template that's been set up in the system by one of our administrators or by a business champion within your organization. So I'm going to start with the transitioning legacy checklists into a new tracker. So the first thing I do is I create a new tracker. And I'm going to bring in a new conflicts check in this case. So I'll call this one conflicts number 2. And you'll notice the new tracker is created. It's still within this matter workspace, but it's got no tasks in it. So of course I can go ahead and add a single task if I want to, and I'll take a look at doing that in a second. But this is a really great feature here where I can copy and paste from an existing checklist. So I'm going to go ahead and select that option. And down here, I've got a couple of examples of, legacy checklists. So here's a checklist for registering a company. So you can see I've got 9 odd tasks which happen. There's some columns with metadata like the assignee and when it's due. And I've got a notes field on this one as well. The other one I've got open here is a conflict check or an intake form. Which should look very similar to the one that I showed you that exists already. And I wanted to give you a picture of this is how easy it is to take a legacy checklist and put it into an iManage tracker. So I'm going to go and select all of those columns and rows and copy that. Pop back to my iManage tracker page and paste those in there. So we'll notice now, if I just go back to the bottom, I can see that all of those columns that I need to deal with have been recognized by the import process. And I know that I've got my first row is actually a title row, so I'm going to exclude that. And I know that this first column needs to be assigned to tasks. This second column is assignees, due date, status, and notes. And a new field here called conflict. And this is going to be a drop down with unique values that are being pulled from my legacy checklist sheet. So I can go ahead and import that now, and that's going to go and create all of those tasks in my new tracker. It's going to apply the dates or the due dates that have come across from that legacy checklist, assign it to the relevant people, and update the status and add any notes. And then, of course, we've got that conflict yes or no field, which was also brought across. So you can see how easy it is for us to take a legacy checklist from some sort of text file or spreadsheet or Word document and import that and transition it into a live, manageable, defensible checklist within the actual matter workspace in iManage Work. So that's a great process, and you can see how easy that is. The next thing I can do is create another new tracker. And maybe I'll call this one Conflicts 3. And in this case, I'm going to import from an existing tracker checklist. So this is where in my system, either other people, other users have created trackers, or my administrators have created some templates for me to go from. And I'm going to go here's a conflicts check. I'll say work papers management template. Is that conflicts one ahead? That's all right. We'll just use this one. You can see how easy it is. It's a bit different. You can see we've got tasks and subtasks in this particular template, and we've got all of the fields that have been added, and some of these are custom fields like approved and the approver, and we can decide whether we want to include data from the tracker template itself. So the approver and the approved options, no, I don't want to bring that, but notes I do. And if there's any links to documents or emails or folders in the tracker template, it'll bring that across as well. So if there's any sort of Word templates or Excel templates that make sense to have already linked to the tracker, they'll come across with the tracker template as well. So I'm going to go ahead and create that. And that'll create a whole new tracker with all of those tasks and bring some of that data across that was stored with that tracker template as well, which, just to repeat, includes things like the tasks themselves, whether there's documents linked to individual tasks, and things like notes, for example, which will come across as well. Quite a few tasks in this one, so it might take a couple of seconds to get going. Here we go. So we can see here that this has brought the conflicts check through. Sorry, this is a work papers management through quite cleanly. There's no assignees because it's a brand new tracker that I've set up from a template, so I can go through and add those assignees if I want to, as well as things like due dates and add links and files and status. Note you can multi-select, so rather than having to do things individually, I can go through and select a few different tasks, go ahead and assign them to myself and give them a due date, say, of the end of November. And maybe I can change the status to do. So again, enables me to do things in bulk so that I'm not having to go through and manage individual tasks when I'm first setting up this tracker. So I can, of course, go ahead and start doing things like assigning other tasks to other people. So I might assign this one to Brett and say, hey, actually, this one's due at the end of December. And this one's in progress. And I'll say here, please see me. So two very easy ways of creating new trackers. First of all, we did an import from a legacy task list from Excel. And the second one we did here, we brought in from a tracker template that was already saved and stored in my iManage work and iManage tracker solution. So the next thing I want to look at is how do I create individual tasks, for example. So I can go to here and say, hey, I'm going to add a new task. Set up demo for Brett, for example. Go through, there's no conflict here. I'm going to assign that to myself and give it a due date, end of November. I can go through and link an item to this particular task. And again, directly integrated with iManage Work, so you're not having to switch between systems or grab links or export documents from iManage Work and put them into your task list solution. You just select the document from your recent documents list, for example, or of course I can use all of my familiar iManage Work tools like recent workspaces. Can drop through there and maybe grab this brochure for the demo. And that's going to go ahead and add that as a link. And this is an actionable link. From here, if I right click, it's going to give me the iManage Work things that I can do for that particular link as well. Once you're in a tracker, there's some other things that I can do in here. For example, if I want to take a copy of this tracker, either to send externally or just keep a record of it, I can export the tracker out to a Word file. I can export it out to a CSV file or even out to a custom tracker format file that I can then ship and use for other purposes as well. Other things I can do with individual tasks, we've looked at how you can change the metadata. We can add links, change assignees and due dates and stuff like that. From this view, I can pop out my details. This gives me all of the information about that particular tracker. And again, it's in the same format that we're using iManage Work. So as far as training and familiarizing your users with the solution, if they're already using iManage Work, they're going to be great with this particular product as well. So here I can make changes. I can set due dates, change the status and stuff like that. I can see what matter it's connected to. And if I click this link, it'll actually take me back to the matter workspace where I can view the documents and emails that have been saved into that matter. I can see when it was created and by who. But something that's quite important to the customers that we've been working with recently is a proper audit trail of what's happened with this particular task over its life cycle. So what's important here is things like if I've changed the status to done, there is a defensible record that says that I changed it on a particular time and date, and this is what I changed the status to. So if you need some sort of regulatory sort of compliance or proof that an action was taken by a particular person in your organisation, this is the kind of tools and features that are going to help you to satisfy those regulatory compliance requirements. So I think I've covered there most of the basics on the trackers themselves. So how do I access the tracker? Can I have multiple trackers per matter workspace? We've looked at creating new trackers from existing templates or from existing legacy checklists, and of course, creating new tasks manually, and also how we can access things like various different metadata fields, timelines, preview, all that sort of stuff as well. Next thing I want to do is pop back to my iManage Work interface. And the next part of this is how do I see what I'm working on or what tasks I've got due, or perhaps I want to look at what some of my colleagues are doing or people in my team are doing at the moment. So to do that, I just pop into that Tasks tab, which is available for your users once you enable iManage Tracker in your cloud tenancy. And the first screen I've got here is my tasks by matter. So I can see that I've got 72 tasks in my list at the moment, and they're split up for me by the various different matters that they're sitting under and the trackers that they're sitting under as well. So under this conflicts check for L. Johnson lawsuit, I can see there's that new tracker that I set up just recently. I can change the status to done there. It's going to remove it from the list. I've also see that I've got 3 other tasks that I've got for that particular matter. Or I can look at other matters. For example, there's the that matter closure one for that same workspace, and I can see the tasks that I've got due and what date they're due on. And if I pop through those, I've got all that same preview information. I can change the metadata or the assignee or the due date. I can add notes, or I can see the timeline for that tracker to see what's happened to it during the course of its life. So that's the my tasks by matter. I can also have a look at my tasks by due date. So that'll wrap up all of my tasks, regardless of which matter that they're related to, and show me what I've got coming up that I need to get done. So some examples here, you can see I've got one that's past due, it's showing up as red. Set up a new tax return or something like that for a new client. Or I've got a task due today. I've got a task due tomorrow, then of course I've got a whole bunch of tasks due further than a week out. And I can scroll through these. Very easy for me to see what their due date is, if they're overdue, do they have a file linked? And then if I actually select it, it'll show me all of the details in that details pane as well. So it's a great way of managing my own tasks on a day-to-day basis. If I want to see what my team's doing, I can actually say, hey, I want to see other people's tasks. So if I pop out to Brett here, I can see by matter what tasks Brett's got. I can see that he's all up to date for the most part. He's got nothing that's overdue. He's got a few things that are due this month that we might need to talk about. And I can go here and say, oh, what's this one that Brett's going on here? He's got to get a summary of trade secrets for an IP deal. And I can say, can you see me about this? So from there, Brett will get a notification that someone's made an update to that particular task in his email digest, which I'll show you guys in a second. Of course, from here, I can also do interesting things like sending an email. So I can send an email with a link to the tracker to Brett or to other people to show them what's going on with it if they don't have access to the system, or perhaps I want to ask Brett a question and have it on record and filed in iManage as well. Or I can just take a link and use that and paste it into a Teams chat or an email or something, so that someone else can access and see what's going on with a task within that particular tracker. I can see tasks that I have assigned. So if I've gone and assigned tasks to other people, here's all the tasks I've assigned to both Brett and Yvonne in the last couple of months. And I can see when they're due, if they're overdue, and of course I can see what matter they're related to. And all of these labels are all linked, so I can click on them and it'll take me through to that particular matter workspace and that matter tracker. Or I can just click on the task itself and I can see the details and I can action any of those if I want to. Now they're individual tasks. I can also see here, if I pop back to my tasks by matter, on this matter tracker tab, it's actually going to show me all of my recent workspaces or my workspaces as well. And from there I can say, hey, anything that says create tracker doesn't have a tracker on it, but anything that's blank is going to have a tracker. So I can use this solution or this view, the matter tracker view, to go into my matter and see the tracker page directly for that particular matter. So this is that L. Johnson lawsuit matter we looked at when we first started. I've got my conflicts check, those two new trackers I created, and of course those example due diligence, IP, and matter closure checklists that we went through at the very start of the demonstration. While we're in here, while you're in your tracker tab, which is available here through the tasks button, is look at my notification preferences. So that'll pop me out to the preferences screen. And you'll notice here I can follow either users, so in this case I'm following Yvonne and Brett, or I can decide I want to follow particular trackers. So we need to be a bit careful about how many trackers we're following, of course, because we don't want to get overloaded with information. But the great thing about these notifications are, so as not to block up my inbox, these are actually going to just send me a daily digest of what's going on with each of the users or the trackers that I follow. And that's great because it means I get a one-page view of what's going on, things that are overdue or things that are ready today, or perhaps things that have changed in the last 24 hours for some of the trackers that I follow. It is a great opportunity for me to switch out of the iManage work view and pop to what again should be very familiar to our customers is Microsoft Outlook. Now we're all familiar with the work panel in Microsoft Outlook, of course. In here we've got access to all of our iManage work features where we can drag and drop emails, we can actually manage our matters, browse through various different folders, preview documents, grab links to things, do searches, that sort of stuff, and close that work panel down. Once you have iManage Tracker enabled in your solution, you'll then have the ability to pop out this tracker panel in Outlook as well. So the tracker panel, a couple of things you can do in here. The first one is generally manage your tasks. So if you like living inside Outlook and you're used to, say, keeping email sitting in your inbox so you know what you've got to do something, you can actually start doing it via Tracker instead. So here I've got my tasks by due date, all of those same tasks. The difference here is that instead of having a details pane pop out, I actually click through to the task and I can view the details. I can change metadata fields if I want. I can add notes and do that sort of thing as well. Of course, I can add new tasks, look at timelines, copy links, all that sort of same stuff, but I'm doing it from the task pane inside Outlook, which is more efficient for a lot of people. Another really interesting thing I can do from here is create a new tracker or a new task based on an email simply by dragging and dropping it onto the matter. So if I grab this new eBrief requirement email here, I'm going to drag that over onto this particular matter. It's going to file that email into the relevant email folder in that matter workspace, and it's going to create a new task for me. Sorry, what's that done to me? It's going to create a new task for me for, say, new eBrief, and automatically assign that task to me. I can give it a due date, end of November, and of course then I can start doing things like changing the status or adding notes and that sort of stuff. And it's linked the email that's just been filed into the iManage workspace to this particular tracker task. So it's a great way of getting new tasks into the system, assigned to me with a link back to the email that task came from. So that's that last little piece there around turning emails into actionable tasks. That does remind me, there was one final area that I wanted to show you in the iManage Work web interface. I'm just going to pop back to that one. And that's the last way that we're able to get documents, emails, or folders linked to tasks in iManage through iManage Work. So again, I'm going to pop through to my recent workspaces list, L. Johnson lawsuit, and say I've got a billing document here. I can right click on that and say add as task in tracker. You can actually multi-select documents and then select create multiple tasks from documents in your tracker. I'm just going to do one for the case of this one. That's going to go ahead and say, hey, where do you want to create this task? Do you just want to use the name of the document? Yeah, sure, I do. I might change the date to make it more relevant. It knows that I'm already in the L. Johnson lawsuit matter, so I was going to default to that. But of course, I can go and select a different matter workspace and put it into a different tracker if I want to. Which tracker am I going to put it in? It's that conflicts check tracker. I can give it a due date. It's automatically linking that file to the task. Give it a status of to do, and go ahead and add that task. And then, of course, that task's been created. I can just click through and it'll take me to that task in the tracker that's associated with that particular matter workspace. There's that task there. So if I want to, I can always drag that down to the bottom of the screen or make it a subtask or make it a high-level task as well. From here, I can continue to do things like change the status, have a look at the details, see the timeline, so on and so forth. Okay. So that's pretty much what I wanted to show you as an introduction to iManage Tracker today. I'll just run quickly through that list again of what we just had a look at. So we had a look at, what is a tracker, where trackers exist underneath iManage Work matter workspaces. We can have multiple checklists per workspace, and those checklists can be created either manually. We can import checklists from an existing legacy checklist, say from Excel or Word, or we can use a tracker template that's been set up in the iManage Work system to copy a tracker from a template to a new tracker. Then we went through tailoring a tracker. So we had a look at how we can add and remove metadata fields. We can change where tasks and subtasks exist, add values to those metadata fields as well. We had a look at how we can interact with my task lists. So can I get a view of all of the tasks that I need to do in the upcoming weeks? What overdue tasks do I have at the moment? And I can see that same information for either my colleagues or for people that I have assigned tasks to. And then the last thing we had a look at was working with tasks within Microsoft Outlook, where I was able to not only do my task list works in a tracker pane inside Outlook, but I was also able to really easily convert an email to a task just by dragging and dropping it from my inbox into the tracker, which then saved that email into an iManage workspace and created a linked tracker task for me all in one step, which I think is a great move forward for anyone that uses their inbox at the moment for dealing with task management. So that's it for today as far as the demonstration is concerned. Now we're more than happy to take any questions. If there's any questions in the Q&A tab, Jenny will be able to read them out. If you would like to ask a question right now, or you'd like us to show you anything again or any specific deep dives, please just use the raise hand button in Teams, and Brett will be able to allow your mic to be unmuted so you can ask a question. So we'll give you a few minutes to have a think about that. While that's happening, I might get Jenny to either read out any questions that have already been put in the Q&A tab, or we have a couple of pre-arranged questions just to give you guys a bit of inspiration of what you might need to ask.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Jeff. That demonstration was very interesting. We do have some questions in the Q&A chat, which is great. So Lynette has asked, is there a limit on the size of notes in Tracker?
I don't think so. I might get Luke to answer that one. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, look, and apologies off the top of my head, I'm not sure of the exact limit. I think it'll be impractically large. The idea is to accept notes in there, but apologies, but let me get the exact information around that, and I'll get the OIA team to get back to you.
Through my own use, I've put multiple paragraphs in, Lynette, and I've never hit a limit, but I've certainly not put pages and pages of content in there.
Perfect. She's also asked, when you assign a person to a task, does that person receive a notification?
I think no, but Luke, you'll please correct me if I'm wrong. Sorry, mate, you're on mute.
Apologies, technical issues with my internet today and my mute button. So there's a daily digest of information that kind of comes through to inform the user of the task that they're involved with and working with. I have discussed this with the product management team, and it's a really interesting topic that they've had to consider very deeply and get that balance right between literally having a notification every time something changed on a task and effectively filling your inbox perhaps with noise versus what they've kind of gone for with the current solution around getting those digest kind of emails with relevant information to you periodically, say once a day.
It's a good point, and that is that balance, because we are trying to reduce the clutter in your inbox, which happens when people use email to manage tasks between each other. I do know that once you've created a task, it's a very simple sort of option here to send an email. So if I do actually want to go ahead and notify, say, Brett or whoever that task has been created, I can go ahead and do that quite easily. And all I need to do there is put the person's name in. I don't even need to send it to myself. I don't even need to, for example, copy and paste the link or do any details or anything like that. I can just send them an email that says, you've got this new task, here's the link, go and do something with it. And that's probably handling that email notification by exception rather than automatically sending an email every time a new task gets created. And I think, to your point, Luke, anyone that's used any of those platforms, which I think we all have, like Asana or Monday, if you get someone like me that comes along and imports 100 tasks and assigns them to someone and then they get 100 emails, they're not going to be your friend for a couple of weeks. So we've got to, really balance how those email notifications work. A very good question. Thanks, Lynette, and thanks, Luke.
Okay, great. And then we've had 3 more questions that people have asked. So we've had, is there a manager view? For example, can managers see tasks across all their direct reports?
So with the assigned by me, that'll show you any tasks that I've pushed across to other users. So that's one way of doing it. The other tasks list, I think at this stage, and again, this might be a good ideas bank sort of enhancement request, would be that can you actually select multiple other users to view what tasks they've got for them. And I don't think you can at the moment, Luke, but be happy to be told otherwise as well.
No, I think you're spot on, Jeff. So what you've shown there is really what's there today to be able to view, those tasks that you've assigned to others, so you can keep track of those tasks. They're not just lost in the ether. And also that tasks to that are assigned to others. Again, this is one of those areas that as we move Tracker forward, like all of the the iManage products have got very kind of long roadmaps into the future. This area of reporting, analytics, and kind of that roll-up reporting, perhaps to across various matters, across your teams, across practice areas, etc., is something that I know that the product management team for Tracker is really thinking about for the future. So I think we'll see a lot of movement in this type of space, into next year. But I think Jeff's covered off what is there today.
One thing I did neglect to show you, and this ties into the email notifications. So the users I follow, so if you follow your team, and I actually forgot to show you the Daily Digest email in Outlook before. So if I go back to here, you can see here's my Daily Digest report. And because I am, you can see that I've got my tasks and what's changed recently, what's overdue, that sort of thing. But because these are the tasks that are assigned to me, but because I follow Brett and Yvonne, I also get a view of what's going on with them. So here's all of recent activities for Brett, recent activities for Yvonne, and then of course I can click through to see these in Tracker as well, and that'll take me to the cloudimanage.com page for that relevant matter also. So apologies, I did forget to show you this email digest earlier on as well. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So I think that also helps with the other question, that is there any reporting analytics? So as Luke said, not yet, but obviously that is in the roadmap or down the path. We've also had a question of, can you attach a file which are not in iManage Work, but just in the Tracker if you need?
Why would you want to do that? No, at this stage, I believe that that link option is just to iManage Work. But if you can obviously save documents straight into Work and then create a new Tracker task from that document very quickly and easily. The other fields that are available in the trackers, I don't think would give you the option to do anything other than maybe put a link, either a UNC path or an HTTP link to a document in another system. And I think I do have some trackers where I've got HTTP links sitting in a, I think I might have made this one here. Yeah, sorry, it's on that income tax return, where I can put links to web pages or documents in other platforms and stuff like that. So I'll just get Luke to give me the tick. I'm assuming that we can't put documents in here that aren't actually in iManage Work.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, the files tab is intended to be content, from Work 10 folder, folders full of information or individual documents or emails that may need some form of action, or maybe some reference material to assist the assignee to complete that task.
Yep. And again, that goes hand in hand with the the fully integrated experience, that you're sitting in iManage Work, you're dealing with the content that is your firm's knowledge and is saved into iManage Work, and you're not having to take content out of iManage Work to work with it in a checklist sense.
Perfect. Look, I just had a question based on what Lynette's mentioned about the size of notes. If you're importing from an Excel spreadsheet tracking sort of tab, is there a limit of how many rows you can import at once?
Not that I know of. I've imported lists with 3 levels of tasks up to I think about 150 tasks myself. And I haven't come across any limits at this stage. I don't believe there's any published limits, but I've tested up to about 150 tasks to do import, and that's worked quite well.
Okay, perfect. And then just sorry, I've just arranged some questions that I thought people might be interested in. So just to confirm, the trackers can only be attached to the workspaces, and there's no option to attach trackers to folders at this point in time, is there?
No, and that's a good question, because the trackers are really, as we said, they're matter centric. So they sit at the matter level. So all of these trackers that I've got across the bottom here are sitting at the matter level. However, in the same way that we can link documents and emails to individual tasks, we can also link a folder to a task. So if there's something to do with a particular folder, I can drop in directly link to that folder, and click that, it'll take me to that folder so I can see the documents that are related to it.
Okay.
If you need, in line with that, because we can have more than one tracker per workspace, you could have a tracker which represents each folder as well, and then have a task at the top of the tracker which links to the folder. But whether that's relevant or solves the sort of business requirement that you're trying to satisfy there is the question.
Okay.
And I think just adding to that's what we're seeing with a number of firms and organisations that are using Tracker around the world. The multiple trackers per workspace or per matter, is a feature that was added, in the last 6 months or so. It's really there to support those kind of multiple work streams, per matter. Now, depending on the structure of your workspace folder structures, you might have different folders underneath the workspace that represent those different work streams and the content that relates to it. But as Jess said, you can flexibly use the multiple trackers per workspace to represent different streams of work, different activities for different groups of people, or work streams for that matter.
Okay, perfect. And we've just had another question asked on the Q&A panel. Lynette said, I see you can NA a task. To keep the area tidier, can you delete tasks no longer required?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
So there's two things we can do. We can, so you can see that once the task is completed, either by ticking the box here, or that selects it, changing the status to done. So these statuses, you can run through them all, and then once you hit that done status, you'll see that it changes the color of the task down so it's a bit less obvious. That's one thing. I believe you can also change it to show only incomplete tasks. So it'll hide tasks that have been completed. And then finally, if you did want to, you can select or right click and delete a task as well if you want to. Yeah, and you can multi-select and delete tasks if you need to as well.
Perfect. And then I guess my only other question, which I think everyone is sort of wondering about, what is the sort of pricing and setup of getting Tracker onto your system if you're already in the cloud?
Okay, yep. So I'll talk about the setup first. So enabling Tracker in the cloud is very simple. Once it's been ordered through your iManage partner, OIA in this case, iManage literally just switches it on. So it's a service which is available in the cloud, and they switch it on. We create an app in your tenancy, and then you can start putting all of those menu items, and that Tracker tab will appear for all users if you want it to. As far as implementation is concerned, as I said, all of the users come through from iManage Work, so you don't have to set up any sort of directory sync. You don't have to sync client and matters to Tracker. The trackers are just created inside the existing iManage Work workspaces with the users and groups that are available in iManage Work. Design and implementation wise, what we're finding iManage's best practice is getting it set up, do your basic technical testing, and then find some groups that regularly run projects or jobs that can be managed by a checklist, and let them start using it and creating their own trackers. Get used to the system, weed out any nuances to do with your processes and how they work inside iManage Tracker, and then we're able to save those as templates that other people can start using down the track. So the implementation costs are quite small. The licensing costs, I might get Brett to talk to just briefly, just to give you a bit of a picture of how that might work.
Yeah, so just briefly, it is pricing per user. Probably best to reach out to your account manager for exact pricing, but look, it is comparable to anything like Asana or Monday. So I actually think the pricing for Tracker is quite reasonable, but best to reach out to account managers for the full details.
No problem at all.
Okay, perfect. If anyone else has any other questions, feel free to put it in the Q&A panel, or as Jeff said, just raise your hand. Otherwise, I think that is getting close to the end of the webinar.
Yeah, we're just about time up. So I want to take this opportunity to thank you, Jenny, for setting this up. To all of the attendees, appreciate you taking the time out to join us. I know it's hard to carve out an hour of your day for stuff like this, but hopefully this has been useful to give you a bit of a flavour of what you can do with this new tool from iManage and how you can use it to further, enrich the experience that your users are getting from the iManage solution, and hopefully also, reduce the number of different disparate systems that you've got floating around the place. Thanks, Brett, for the introduction, and Luke, thank you so much for joining us as well. It's so great to have your endorsement and to be working so closely with iManage on these initiatives too. So with that, let's wrap it up. We will post a recording of this video up on our YouTube channel, and Jenny will send a link around to everyone that's joined today and also to anyone that registered and was unable to attend. So you'll be able to go back and watch that later. Anything else, Jen?
No, I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Very good. Okay. Thanks
everybody.
everybody. Appreciate it, and talk to you again really soon.
Thanks all.
Bye.